Okay, so the previous slide was all about the distances, so links and chains. And what I have here now is areas. In the old survey plans, it wasn't not only the distances, but also the areas where prior to 1973 were different. So we had something called acres, roods, and perches. And you're probably familiar with the term acre. Or, the New Zealand dream was owning a quarter-acre section, being a good size for your house. But roots and perches might be something new to you. So the easiest way to describe acres, roots, and perches is thinking about it as something like hours, minutes, and seconds, or even, degrees, minutes, and seconds. So as an example, in degrees, minutes, and seconds, we know that there are 360 degrees around the circle. And if we divide it into 60, we get minutes. And then if we divide that into a further 60, then we get seconds, right? So for acres, roots, and perches, so just a quick kind of background about the acres. So the acres have an interesting history, and the unit of measurement for that was based on how much a farmer was able to plow in a day using 2 oxen. So in a day, generally he was able to do 10 chains long by 1 chain wide. So after this workday ends, this is how much land area was plowed. So this then became the standard to call this an acre. Okay, that's quite an interesting piece of history there. And then from this acre, they took that acre, they broke it down further because an acre was obviously a pretty big area. So they created roods. Okay, so roods, they decided that they're gonna fit 4 roods into an acre. And then from there, they wanted to obviously break it down even further. So they created perches, and they assigned 40 perches in a rood. Okay, so you have 40 perches in a rood and 4 roods in an acre. So 4 by 40, that would give us 160 perches in total for an acre. Now, similar to the links, you need to be familiar with this conversion because you will, I have no doubt that you will come across this in old survey plans. So please take the time to learn this. So what I have in front of me here is an example of an old survey plan. By the way, I am uploading these plans on Moodle, so please have a read, or you can zoom in and have a look at some of that information on there if it's not clear from the slides. But this is an example of an old survey plan from the North Shore in Auckland. And you can see a few interesting things here if you compare it to new survey plans. And I just wanted to kind of pull your attention to a few of these things. So here you can see that the old survey plan is from the year 1970. So obviously anything prior to 1973 was using the old imperial measurement system, so it hasn't been the metric system has not been introduced yet. And one of the first things that you may notice is that if you are if you're a bit familiar with seeing new or more recent survey plans, you will see that they are in black and white, whereas this one is colored. Okay, so again, any plan that came before 1973 was drawn by hand and colored in manually. Okay, yeah, so just kind of like reiterating, so two things happened in 1973. One being that we moved away from the imperial to the metric system. So we went from links to meters and from acres, roots, and purchase to hectares and square meters. Okay, so that was the first thing. And then the second thing is we went from colored plans to black and white plans. So in this transition period, so when we were transitioning away from the colored plans, there was a period that the black and white plan systems, so obviously were not digital, they were still created manually, but they were drawn on A2 sheets of plastic. So it was a type of film, and you had to use your pen to draw on it, and your eraser used to be a scalpel, and you used to scratch it out and then do it again if there was a mistake. Now, as you know, we have moved away from the physical plans to digital plans. So the basics I'm going to teach you is using black and white system. So as we progress through this course, but for the sake of this lecture, because we are looking at the history, I am highlighting the old colored plans. So when they had the colored plans, so if you notice and you want to zoom in and have a look, they either wrote on them, so you can see things are written to define what was on there, or they would use color that they can then use to differentiate between different things. So obviously then when they moved to the black and white system, a lot of things were changed or they couldn't be described. So they used line weights, and they used line types and symbols as a way to distinguish between different things on plans, and that's what we have now. So we have different lines with different weights, and then we also have different line types, and we have symbols that allow us to interpret those newer plans. But yeah, back then everything was done by hand. Cool, so a few things I just want to highlight quickly. So if you look up on the plan, you can see that the total area shown is in acres, roots, and purchase. So you can see that there. You can also see that on the individual blocks. So you can see distances measured in links. All right, and yeah, the areas of each parcel as well. Yeah, so just trying to see what else is interesting to look at, because as we go through the rest of this lecture, I'm going to also highlight some history on some of that information here. You will notice at the bottom there, so there are different district councils and local councils listed in old plans that may not be current. So for example, you can see the East Coast Bays Borough Council. It's obviously no longer there. You can see there's the Surveyors Regulations Act of 1938. So that was the Survey Regulations Act. Now we have the Cadastral Survey Act of 2002. So the act was used up up to 2002 potentially. I mean, I'm not sure if there was any other acts that came between then and the 2002 version, but it's interesting to see that the Survey Regulations Act, so there was an act that defined how surveyors worked on cadastral surveys. Again, because we know that New Zealand's cadastral system is a legal system, so we have an act or a piece of legislation that ensures the accuracy and the way of maintaining that cadastral system legally. Then you will see something called survey block and district. So in this case here, at the bottom there, it says block 4, Waitemata survey district, and I'm going to cover survey districts briefly as well soon. So that's another thing to point out there. We have land district. We have the land district registrar, the land transfer office, and yeah, I'm just going to go through those briefly with you now.